My name is Kathleen, and at 25 years old, I never expected my life to change because of a Christmas present. Our perfect holiday scene, luxurious home snowflakes, dancing outside, crackling fireplace, and a shimmering tree. Then I spotted it through the window, a brand new BMW with a giant red bow. My stomach dropped when my sister Veronica squealed with delight, jumping up and down with the keys. Meanwhile, I unwrapped my gift, a $1 piggy bank. Before I continue this nightmare Christmas story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to support more stories from people who turned family betrayal into strength. Growing up in our family was like living in two different worlds under the same roof. My father, James, is a chief financial officer at a major corporation, bringing home a six-figure salary with generous bonuses every quarter. My mother, Eleanor, works as a cosmetic surgeon at an exclusive clinic in downtown Boston, catering to wealthy clients wanting to preserve their youth. Then there is my younger sister, Veronica, who just turned 20, the baby of the family and the eternal favorite. And me, Kathleen, the overlooked firstborn. Our house sits in an affluent suburb of Boston, a 5-bedroom colonial with manicured gardens and a 3-car garage. From the outside, we were the picture-perfect American family. Inside those walls, however, was a different story. The disparity in how we were treated started small. When we were children, Veronica would receive designer clothes from Nordstrom and Saks Fifth Avenue, while I wore mid-range brands from department stores. For her 16th birthday, Veronica received a brand new iPhone and a shopping spree. For mine, I got a refurbished laptop and a gift card to a bookstore. "Your sister is more delicate," my mother would say. "She needs more attention." "You were always so independent," my father would add, as if my self-reliance was justification for their neglect. Despite the inequality, I worked hard. In high school, I maintained a 4.0 GPA, earned a partial scholarship to Boston University, and worked 20 hours a week at a local coffee shop to cover expenses my parents refused to pay for. I graduated with honors in marketing, while juggling 2 part-time jobs and an internship. Now, at 25, I work as a junior marketing associate at a mid-sized agency. My salary is modest but steady, allowing me to rent a small 1-bedroom apartment about 40 minutes from my parents' home. I budget carefully, pack lunches and shop sales to make ends meet. Every month, I put aside $200 into my savings account, hoping to eventually have enough for a down payment on a better place. My current car situation was becoming a serious problem. My 10-year-old Honda Civic had seen better days. In the past 6 months alone, I had spent over $3,000 on repairs, a new transmission brake work, and most recently, issues with the electrical system. Each time something broke, I would call my parents in desperation, and each time they gave me the same response. "Kathleen, you need to learn to handle your own problems. We cannot bail you out every time something goes wrong," my father lectured during our last conversation. "Financial independence is an important life skill." The irony wasn't lost on me. Just last month, they had paid for Veronica's spring break trip to Cancun with 3 of her friends. The month before that, they covered the security deposit and first 3 months of rent on her luxury apartment near her campus, though she was only a sophomore and could have lived in dormitories. When Veronica crashed her car after texting while driving, they replaced it within a week. When she failed 2 classes because she was too busy partying, they hired expensive tutors and convinced the school to give her another chance. Their support for her seemed limitless, while their patience for me had always been in short supply. Last Thanksgiving illustrated the disparity perfectly. As we sat around the dining table, my father proudly announced that he had set up a trust fund for Veronica to access when she graduated college. "What about Kathleen?" my Aunt Sarah asked, the only one who ever seemed to notice the imbalance. Kathleen is already established in her career, my mother replied smoothly. She doesn't need that kind of help anymore. I sat there, fork suspended mid-air, wondering if they truly believed what they were saying, or if they simply didn't care how it made me feel. 3 weeks before Christmas, my car broke down again on the highway during a snowstorm. I spent 4 hours waiting for a tow truck in freezing temperatures. When I called my father, he said he was in a meeting and couldn't talk. When I texted my mother about possibly borrowing one of their cars temporarily, she replied that both were in use and suggested I look into rental options. That evening, I sat in my cold apartment, scrolling through used car listings I couldn't afford, and allowed myself to hope. Christmas was coming. Perhaps they would finally see how much I needed help. Perhaps this year would be different. The next day, I met my best friend Jessica for coffee and vented my frustrations. I know it sounds entitled, I said, stirring my coffee absently. But is it really too much to ask for some support? I am not asking for handouts, just the same consideration they give Veronica without a second thought. Jessica reached across the table and squeezed my hand. It's not entitled to want your parents to treat you equally, Kathleen. You deserve better than this. Maybe this Christmas will be different, I said, voicing the small hope I'd been nurturing. Maybe they'll finally see me. Jessica's expression was sympathetic but doubtful. We both knew better, but neither wanted to say it out loud. As December 25th approached, I found myself clinging to that fragile hope, despite years of evidence to the contrary. This Christmas would be different. It had to be. Christmas Eve arrived with picture-perfect timing. Snow began falling at dusk, coating our neighborhood in a pristine white blanket. I drove carefully to my parents' house, my trunk filled with thoughtfully chosen gifts I had spent weeks selecting despite my limited budget. For my father, I had found a rare first edition of his favorite author's work at a used bookstore. I had spent 3 weekends searching through dusty shelves to find it. For my mother, I purchased a handcrafted silk scarf from a local artisan, knowing she appreciated unique accessories for her office. For Veronica, despite our complicated relationship, I had chosen a pair of wireless headphones she had mentioned wanting. I had dressed carefully in a forest green sweater dress I had splurged on during a Black Friday sale, paired with my only good pair of black boots. I had even taken time to curl my hair and apply makeup, wanting to look my best for the family photos that would inevitably be taken. The house was transformed into a holiday wonderland. My mother had hired professional decorators as usual. The 20-foot Christmas tree in the foyer sparkled with thousands of white lights and coordinated ornaments in gold and burgundy. Garlands draped every staircase and doorway, and the scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air. A fire roared in the main living room's massive stone fireplace, and classic holiday music played softly through the house's sound system. Dinner was an elaborate affair, prepared by the caterers my mother employed for special occasions. We feasted on prime rib, scalloped potatoes, roasted vegetables, and freshly baked rolls. The good china and crystal were in use, and my father opened several bottles of expensive wine. Throughout the meal, conversation flowed around me, but rarely included me. My father and mother discussed their upcoming winter vacation to Aspen. Veronica dominated much of the conversation, with stories about her sorority events and the internship my father had secured for her at his friend's company for the summer. When I mentioned a successful marketing campaign I had recently helped develop, my mother nodded distractedly before turning to ask Veronica about her latest Instagram post that had apparently gone viral. After dinner, we gathered in the living room for the annual gift exchange. This was always done in a specific order, youngest to oldest, which meant Veronica always went first. Before we start, my father announced with unusual excitement, "I think we should head outside for Veronica's gift." My heart sank as everyone stood up. I had seen the BMW in the driveway when I arrived, but had assumed it belonged to one of their friends who might be joining us later. Now, as we all filed outside into the cold night air, I realized the truth. The BMW X5 sat in the circular driveway, gleaming under the outdoor lights, a massive red bow perched on its roof. It was brand new, sleek, and obviously expensive. Even I could tell it was the luxury model with all the upgrades. "Surprise!" my parents exclaimed together as Veronica's eyes widened. "Oh my God!" she screamed, jumping up and down in her designer boots. "Are you serious? Is this really mine?" My father dangled the keys with a proud smile. "All yours, princess. Merry Christmas." Veronica snatched the keys and launched herself into our father's arms, then our mother's, Timus. She was crying with joy, her mascara running down her cheeks. "This is the best present ever. I love you guys so much." She immediately ran to the car, opening the driver's door and sliding into the leather seat. She turned on the engine, cranked up the stereo, and continued squealing with delight. My parents stood watching her with identical expressions of indulgent affection. I stood apart from them, shivering in the cold, invisible, in my own family once again. Eventually, we all returned inside Veronica, chattering excitedly about all the places she would drive her new car. As we settled back in the living room, the gift exchange continued. "Your turn, Kathleen," my mother said, handing me a small, neatly wrapped package. The box was light, maybe 5 inches square, wrapped in expensive silver paper with a small bow. My fingers trembled slightly as I opened it, still hoping against hope that perhaps they had gotten me something meaningful. Maybe jewelry, or a gift card, for a substantial amount, or even keys to a more modest but reliable car. Instead, I found myself staring at a small plastic piggy bank shaped like a classic pink pig. It had a $1 bill folded and inserted into the slot on top. Thank you," I said, confusion evident in my voice. My father cleared his throat. "We thought it was time for an important lesson, Kathleen. You are 25 now, and it is time to really focus on saving and building your future. The $1 is symbolic, a starting point for your financial independence." My mother nodded in agreement. "We know you have been struggling with your car and other expenses, but handouts will not teach you the value of money. This piggy bank is to remind you of the importance of saving. Every little bit counts." I stared at them, waiting for more, waiting for them to laugh and bring out the real gift, but their expressions remained earnest, as if they truly believed they were doing me a favor. Veronica, who had been examining her new car key fob, looked up and snickered. "Maybe now you can start saving for your own BMW. Or, just take the bus." She laughed at her own joke, and my parents smiled indulgently. "We are just looking out for your best interests," my father added. "Veronica is still in college and needs our support. You are established in your career and need to learn self-reliance." I felt as if I had been slapped. My eyes burned with unshed tears, but I refused to let them fall. Instead, I forced a smile and thanked them again, placing the piggy bank carefully beside me on the couch. The remainder of the evening passed in a blur. I watched as Veronica opened more gifts, expensive perfume designer clothes, the latest iPhone, and a diamond bracelet. My parents exchanged equally lavish gifts between themselves. I distributed my carefully chosen presents, receiving polite but brief thanks before attention returned to Veronica and her plans for her new car. "I am thinking of driving down to New York next weekend," she announced over dessert. "Some of my sorority sisters want to go shopping, and now we can take my new car instead of crowding into Melissa's old Jeep." "Just be careful, dear," my mother cautioned, "and make sure your friends contribute to gas." My father nodded. "That car gets premium fuel only. Make sure you remember that." I pushed my untouched chocolate mousse around the crystal dessert dish, no longer able to stomach anything. As soon as it seemed acceptable, I excused myself, claiming an early morning the next day. "Are you sure you cannot stay the night?" my mother asked perfunctorily. "Your old room is made up." "No, thank you," I replied. "I have some work to finish before morning." No one pressed me to stay. No one walked me to the door. I gathered my coat and purse along with the piggy bank and left without fanfare. As I started my struggling car, I could see the family through the living room window, still gathered together laughing. I drove away with tears finally streaming down my face, wondering why I had ever expected anything different. Back at my apartment, I could not sleep. The contrast between Veronica's $55,000 vehicle and my $1 piggy bank kept replaying in my mind. The blatant favoritism had never been so stark, so unapologetic, so cruel. Around 1:30 in the morning, I decided to make a cup of tea, hoping it might calm my nerves enough to get a few hours of rest before facing Christmas Day alone. As I waited for the kettle to boil, I remembered I had left my phone charger in my purse, which still contained the Christmas card my parents had given me, along with the piggy bank. I emptied my purse onto the kitchen counter, and among the items that tumbled out was an unfamiliar blue envelope. Confused, I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. It was unsealed, with no writing on the outside. I didn't remember putting it in my purse. Curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked inside. What I found made my heart race: vehicle registration papers for the BMW X5, along with insurance documentation. But what stunned me wasn't the paperwork itself. It was the name listed as the registered owner, Kathleen Marie Turner. My name, not Veronica's. I sat down hard on a kitchen stool, papers trembling in my hands. This had to be a mistake. Why would a car given to Veronica be registered in my name? It made no sense. Unless... A sickening realization began to dawn on me. I needed more information. My parents had given me access to their home computer system years ago so I could help them with technical issues when I visited. They had never bothered to change the password, assuming I would only use it for assistance. I opened my laptop and remotely accessed their home network. It felt invasive, but I needed answers. I navigated to my father's email filtering for anything related to insurance or vehicles. Within minutes, I found what I was looking for: an email exchange between my father and their insurance agent dated just 2 weeks earlier. Regarding the new vehicle purchase, the agent had written, "I must advise against adding it to Veronica's insurance policy. With her 2 accidents and speeding ticket this year, adding a high-performance vehicle would increase your premiums by approximately 340%. My father's response made my blood run cold. "We have a solution. We will register the vehicle under our older daughter Kathleen's name. Her driving record is clean, which should keep the insurance costs reasonable. Veronica will be the primary driver, but there is no need to update that information officially. Please proceed with the paperwork using Kathleen's information, which I've attached." I stared at the screen, numb with disbelief. They had not only chosen to give Veronica an extravagant gift while giving me an insulting token, but they had actually used my identity, my good driving record, to save themselves money on a gift that wasn't even for me. If Veronica had an accident in that car, it would be on my record. My insurance rates would skyrocket. Any legal liability would fall on me as the registered owner. They had put me at financial risk without my knowledge or consent, all to benefit my sister. I continued searching, finding more emails discussing the plan. My father had even joked about it being a creative financial solution to the insurance problem. The betrayal cut deeper than any I had experienced before. This wasn't just favoritism or neglect. This was actively putting me at risk for Veronica's benefit. I spent the next hour researching vehicle ownership laws online. According to everything I read, as the registered owner of the vehicle, I had legal right to possession of the car. The registration and insurance were in my name. The car, legally speaking, was mine. A plan began to form in my mind. A reckless, possibly life-altering plan, but one that felt suddenly right. They had used me as a tool for their own purposes my entire life. Perhaps it was time I stood up for myself. I checked the blue envelope again. Yes, there was the registration, the insurance card, all in my name. All I needed were the keys, which were now with Veronica. I threw some essential items into a duffel bag, clothes, toiletries, my laptop, important documents, and the few sentimental items I couldn't bear to leave behind. I wrote a brief note on a piece of paper. Thank you for the car registered in my name. I'll be keeping it. Don't contact me. It was nearly 3 in the morning when I drove back to my parents' house, parking a block away. The house was dark, everyone asleep after the Christmas festivities. I still had my key to the side door, which I used quietly, careful not to make any noise. I knew exactly where Veronica would have left her purse, on the entryway table where she always dumped it when coming home. Sure enough, there it was, her designer handbag carelessly left open. The BMW key fob was right on top, still attached to the decorative keychain my father had added when presenting it. I took the keys, placed my note on the table where the purse had been, and left as silently as I had entered. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. The BMW was still in the driveway, gleaming under the moonlight. I approached it slowly, half expecting someone to stop me, but the house remained dark and quiet. I pressed the unlock button on the key fob, wincing as the car's lights flashed briefly. Sliding into the driver's seat felt surreal. The leather was butter-soft, the dashboard, a sophisticated array of technology I had never experienced in my old Honda. The engine started with a quiet purr that spoke of expensive engineering. For a moment, I sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, questioning my decision. Was I really going to do this? Take the car and drive away? Cut ties with my family over a Christmas gift? But it wasn't just about the gift. It was about years of inequality, of being treated as less worthy than my sister. It was about them using my name, my good record, to benefit her at potential cost to me. It was about finally standing up for myself after a lifetime of being pushed aside. I put the car in reverse, backed out of the driveway, and drove away from the house I had grown up in. As I reached the end of the street, I glanced in the rearview mirror at the stately home growing smaller behind me. Then I turned the corner, and it disappeared from view. It was 3:15 in the morning on Christmas Day, and I was driving a brand new BMW, registered in my name, toward an uncertain future, leaving behind the family that had never truly seen me. I drove through the night, stopping only for gas and coffee, putting as much distance as possible between myself and Boston. By dawn, I was checking into a roadside motel, nearly 100 miles away, exhausted but oddly exhilarated. After setting an alarm, I collapsed on the bed for a few hours of fitful sleep. When I woke around noon, the reality of what I had done hit me like a physical force. I had taken my sister's Christmas gift. I had left home with barely a note. I had potentially burned bridges that could never be rebuilt. My phone, which I had put on silent, was overflowing with notifications. 27 missed calls, 45 text messages, and numerous voicemails. With shaking hands, I began to go through them. The texts started with confusion. Kathleen, where are you? The car is missing. My mother at 7:15 a.m. Did you take the BMW? Call us immediately. My father, 7:30. As the morning progressed, confusion had turned to anger. How dare you take your sister's car? Bring it back now. My mother, 9:20. This is theft, Kathleen. You have 1 hour to return the car before we take action. My father, 10:45. Veronica's messages were hysterical. You stole my car. I hate you, Mom, and Dad are furious. The voicemails were even worse. My father's voice, normally controlled and businesslike, was trembling with rage. Kathleen, this is beyond unacceptable. Return the car, or we will report it's stolen. You cannot do this to your sister. Call me back immediately. My mother crying, how could you do this to the family? After everything we have done for you, Veronica is devastated. The last voicemail left just 30 minutes earlier was my father again. We have consulted our attorney. The fact that the car is registered in your name does not give you the right to take it. It was clearly a gift for Veronica. This is your last chance to return it before we involve the police. A wave of anxiety washed over me, followed quickly by resolve. They were bluffing. If they went to the police, they would have to explain why the car was registered in my name rather than Veronica's. They would have to admit to insurance fraud. My father, as a CFO, could not afford that kind of scandal. With newfound determination, I blocked all their numbers on my phone. I would not be manipulated or threatened anymore. I called Jessica, the only person I trusted completely. When she answered, I could hear the concern in her voice. Kathleen, are you okay? Your mom called me looking for you. I'm fine, I assured her, and proceeded to tell her everything. The piggy bank, the BMW, registered in my name, my midnight departure. There was a moment of stunned silence before Jessica spoke. Holy shit, Kathleen. I don't even know what to say. Do you think I'm terrible? I asked, suddenly vulnerable. For taking the car? Are you kidding? They registered it in your name to save themselves money without even telling you. Legally, it is your car. And after everything they've done, or rather haven't done for you, this is long overdue karma. Her unwavering support brought tears to my eyes. I don't know what to do now, I admitted. I didn't exactly plan beyond driving away. First things first, Jessica said practically. You need legal advice. I know a good lawyer in Portland, Peter Wilson. He's my cousin's husband. Let me text you his info. The next day I drove to Portland and met with Peter Wilson, a straightforward attorney with a reassuring manner. He reviewed the registration and insurance documents, then nodded decisively. The vehicle is legally yours, he confirmed. It's registered in your name, and there's no documentation showing it was intended as a gift for someone else. Your parents could try to make a case that there was an oral agreement, but without evidence, it would be difficult to prove. What about their threats to report it stolen? I asked. They can try, he said. But once the police see the registration, it becomes a civil matter, not criminal. I'd advise sending a formal letter stating that you are aware the vehicle is registered to you and you have taken possession of your legal property. I left his office feeling more secure in my decision, though the emotional weight still pressed heavily on my shoulders. Over the next few days, messages continued to pour in, not just from my immediate family, but from extended relatives and family friends. Some expressed shock and disappointment in my actions. Others, like my Aunt Sarah, sent more supportive messages. I don't know exactly what happened, Aunt Sarah wrote, but I know things have never been equal between you girls. Whatever you did, I'm sure you had your reasons. Call me if you need anything. With Jessica's help, I found a small furnished apartment in Portland, available for immediate occupancy. It was nothing fancy, a studio in an older building, but it was clean and affordable. Using some of my savings, I paid the security deposit and first month's rent. Moving in took less than an hour, given how few possessions I had brought with me. The sparse space reflected my current reality. I was starting over with almost nothing. The next day, I began applying for marketing positions in Portland. I updated my resume, crafted cover letters, and submitted applications to every suitable opening I could find. In the meantime, I took a temporary position at a local coffee shop to cover immediate expenses. My new neighbor, Olivia, introduced herself when she saw me struggling to carry groceries up the stairs. She was around my age with a warm smile and an easy manner that immediately put me at ease. "New to Portland?" she asked, helping me with a bag that was about to split open. "Very new," I admitted. "I just arrived a few days ago." "Well, welcome to the building," she said. "I'm having a few friends over for dinner tomorrow night. Nothing fancy, just takeout and wine. You should join us if you're free." Under normal circumstances, I might have politely declined, preferring to keep to myself. But these weren't normal circumstances, and the thought of spending another evening alone with my thoughts was unbearable. "I'd like that," I said. "Thank you." That simple dinner invitation marked the beginning of my new social circle. Olivia and her friends were creative professionals, artists, and educators who welcomed me without prying into my past. For the first time in my life, I felt accepted for who I was, not measured against someone else. 2 weeks after leaving Boston, I received an offer from a boutique marketing agency specializing in sustainable businesses. The salary was comparable to what I had been making, but the work environment seemed far more supportive and innovative. As I settled into my new job and began building relationships in Portland, the acute pain of my family situation began to dull into a persistent ache. I still had moments of doubt, wondering if I had overreacted, if I should have tried harder to communicate my feelings before taking such drastic action. But then I would remember the years of dismissal, the $1 piggy bank, the car, registered in my name without my knowledge, and my resolve would strengthen again. I was creating a life on my own terms, one where I was valued for my own merits, not constantly compared and found wanting. It was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. 3 weeks after my departure, as I was returning home from work, I spotted a familiar car parked on my street, my father's Mercedes. Standing beside it were my parents and Veronica, scanning the apartment building as if trying to determine which unit was mine. My first instinct was to turn and flee, but I forced myself to keep walking. This confrontation was inevitable, and perhaps it was better to face it head-on rather than continue to dread it. They spotted me before I reached the building entrance. My father's face flushed dark red with anger. My mother's eyes were puffy from crying, and Veronica looked like she might launch herself at me at any moment. "Kathleen." My father's voice boomed across the street. "Stop right there." I continued walking calmly to my building entrance, then turned to face them. "If you want to talk, we can do so civilly. You can come up to my apartment, or we can go to a cafe nearby. But I will not stand in the street and be yelled at." My father seemed taken aback by my calm demeanor. He had expected tears, apologies, or defensive anger, not this composed woman setting terms. "Fine," he said tersely. "Lead the way." The elevator ride to my fourth-floor apartment was tense with unspoken accusations. Once inside, I offered them water, which they declined, then gestured to the small seating area. "You stole my car," Veronica began immediately, her voice shrill. "I want it back now." "It is not your car," I replied evenly. "It is registered in my name. The insurance is in my name. Legally, it belongs to me." "That was a paperwork convenience," my father exploded. "You know very well that car was a gift for Veronica." "A convenience," I repeated. "You mean a way to commit insurance fraud by registering a car to me without my knowledge or consent, so Veronica could drive it without paying the premium rates her poor driving record would incur." My mother gasped. "How dare you accuse us of fraud? We were simply trying to keep family costs down. By putting me at legal and financial risk, I countered. If Veronica had an accident in that car, my insurance rates would skyrocket. If she injured someone, I could be held liable as the registered owner. Did you consider any of that when you decided to use my name? My father shifted uncomfortably. We can fix the paperwork now, transfer the registration properly. But first, you need to return the car. No, I said, the single word hanging in the air between us. What do you mean, no? My mother asked, genuinely perplexed. Kathleen, be reasonable. The car was for your sister. The same sister who received designer clothes while I got department store clearance items. The same sister who got a new car when she crashed hers while I had to work 2 jobs to pay for repairs on my 10-year-old Honda. The same sister who gets everything handed to her while I am told to be independent. That is different, my father insisted. Veronica is younger, she needs more guidance and support. I needed support too, I said, my voice finally breaking. I needed parents who celebrated my achievements instead of ignoring them. I needed help when my car broke down in a snowstorm. I needed to feel like I mattered as much as Veronica does. You were always so capable, my mother said defensively. We never had to worry about you. You never worried about me because you never thought about me at all, I replied, years of hurt finally finding voice. Do you remember my 21st birthday? You both forgot it entirely because Veronica had a dance recital that weekend. Do you remember when I made Dean's List every semester in college? Neither of you came to a single honors ceremony. My father's face hardened. If this is about money, Kathleen, you are making a grave mistake. We can cut you off completely, remove you from the will. Is that what you want? I laughed a short, bitter sound. I have never seen a dime of your money that I didn't earn through chores or jobs you arranged. I paid my own way through college with scholarships and part-time work. Cut me off from what exactly? My mother tried a different approach, her voice softening. Sweetheart, we are still a family. Families forgive. They stay together no matter what. You cannot throw away 25 years of relationship over one misunderstanding. This is not about one misunderstanding, I said firmly. This is about a lifetime of being treated as less important, less worthy of love and support than my sister. The car was just the final straw. Veronica, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during this exchange, suddenly burst into tears. I need that car. All my friends have seen it. How am I supposed to get around campus now? The bus is gross, and Ubers are expensive. We could work something out, I offered, surprising myself with the suggestion. You could buy the car from me for a fair price. Use some of that trust fund Dad set up for you. My father shook his head vehemently. Absolutely not. That car was a gift. We are not paying for it twice. Then I guess we have nothing more to discuss, I said, standing up. The car is legally mine. I am keeping it. You cannot do this, my mother pleaded. Think about what you are doing to this family, to your sister. I looked at each of them in turn. These people who shared my blood but had never truly seen me. I have thought about it. I have thought about little else for 3 weeks. And my conclusion is that I deserve better than what this family has offered me. I deserve to be valued. I deserve equal treatment. I deserve respect. So that is it, my father demanded. You are choosing a car over your family. No, I answered quietly. I am choosing myself over people who have consistently shown me I do not matter to them. There is a difference. We will take legal action, my father threatened, his face flushed with anger. We will sue you for the car. You are welcome to try, I replied. But I suspect you will not want to explain in court why you registered a car in my name without my knowledge. Or why you told your insurance company I would be the primary driver when you never intended that to be the case. My father's expression confirmed what I already knew: they would not risk exposing their deception in a legal proceeding. "This is not over," he said as they moved toward the door. "You will regret this decision, Kathleen." "I already regret that it came to this," I answered honestly. "But I will not regret standing up for myself, not anymore." After they left, I sat in my small apartment, shaking with adrenaline and emotion. I had stood my ground. For perhaps the first time in my life, I had refused to accept their dismissal and inequality. It felt terrifying and empowering all at once. In the days following the confrontation with my family, I experienced a strange mixture of grief and liberation. I grieved for the loving family I had always wanted, but never had. I grieved for the relationship with my sister that could have been supportive rather than competitive. Yet alongside that grief was an unfamiliar sense of freedom, as if I had put down a heavy burden I had been carrying for years. As my father had threatened, a letter from their attorney arrived the following week demanding the return of the gifted vehicle. My own attorney, Peter Wilson, responded with a simple, factual letter stating that the vehicle was legally registered in my name with no documentation indicating it was intended as a gift for another party. After that initial exchange, no further legal threats materialized. Peter explained that my parents had likely been advised that their case was weak, especially given the questionable circumstances of the registration. With the immediate crisis behind me, I turned my focus to building my new life in Portland. My position at the marketing agency was challenging but fulfilling. The company culture valued creativity and collaboration, a refreshing change from my previous workplace. My colleagues were supportive, and my ideas were not only heard but implemented. The BMW, beautiful as it was, began to feel like an unwelcome reminder of everything I had left behind. It was expensive to maintain, required premium fuel, and frankly, felt out of place in my new, more modest lifestyle. After careful consideration, I decided to sell it. A local luxury car dealership offered me $47,000, significantly less than the vehicle's original value, but still a substantial amount. I used $12,000 to purchase a reliable 3-year-old Subaru that better suited my needs and Portland's weather. The remaining $35,000 went into a savings account, giving me the financial security I had never experienced before. My friendship with Olivia deepened as weeks turned into months. She introduced me to her circle of friends: Marcus, a high school English teacher, Zoe, a graphic designer, and Daniel, a chef at a popular farm-to-table restaurant. They welcomed me into their activities without question, inviting me to dinner parties, hiking trips in the Columbia River Gorge, and weekend explorations of Portland's neighborhoods. Through Olivia, I also began volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping residents update their resumes and prepare for job interviews. The work was rewarding, and the perspective it gave me on my own situation was invaluable. Many of these women had overcome far greater challenges than mine. Recognizing that I needed professional help processing my family situation, I found a therapist specializing in family trauma and boundary setting. Dr. Karen Chen helped me understand that my parents' behavior reflected their own limitations, not my worth as a person. "You cannot change them," she told me during one particularly difficult session, "but you can change how their actions affect you. You can set boundaries that protect your well-being." The approach of Easter, the first major holiday since my departure, brought a renewed wave of emotion. Social media showed pictures of friends celebrating with their families, triggering unexpected feelings of loss. I found myself hovering over my parents' contact information, wondering if I should reach out. Instead, I accepted Olivia's invitation to join her family's celebration. Her parents, warm and welcoming people in their 60s, treated me like another daughter, including me in their traditions, without making me feel like an outsider. That evening, I received an unexpected email from my Aunt Sarah. Kathleen, I hope this message finds you well. I want you to know that I understand why you left, even if others in the family do not. Not everyone agrees with how James and Eleanor raised you girls. You were always the responsible one, the one everyone took for granted. I am proud of you for standing up for yourself, even though the way it happened was unfortunate. If you ever want to talk, my door is always open to you. Love, Aunt Sarah. Her message brought tears to my eyes, both for its kindness and for the validation it offered. At least one member of my family recognized the truth of my experience. As spring turned to summer, I established clear boundaries in all my new relationships. I was honest about my needs and expectations, and I walked away from situations that felt unbalanced or manipulative. I learned to recognize the early warning signs of being undervalued, something I had normalized for so long in my family dynamic. My professional life flourished as I brought this new confidence to my work. 6 months after starting at the agency, I was assigned to lead a major campaign for a sustainable clothing brand. The project was a success, earning recognition within the industry and bringing new clients to the agency. My salary increased accordingly, allowing me to move to a larger apartment in a neighborhood I loved. 1 year after leaving Boston, I barely recognized my former self, the woman who had accepted scraps of attention and affection, who had constantly sought approval from people incapable of giving it fairly. I had transformed from someone defined by her family relationships to a person standing confidently on her own accomplishments. That transformation wasn't without pain or doubt. There were still nights when I questioned my decision, when I wondered if I could have handled things differently. But those moments grew fewer and farther between as I built a life that reflected my own values rather than someone else's expectations. In a strange way, that $1 piggy bank had been the most valuable gift my parents ever gave me, though not in the way they intended. It had been the catalyst for my independence, the final inequity that propelled me towards self-respect and authentic living. On the 1-year anniversary of my departure from Boston, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sunset over the Portland skyline. So much had changed in 12 months. I had been promoted to senior marketing strategist at my agency. I had formed deep friendships with Olivia and our shared circle. My small studio had been replaced by a comfortable one-bedroom apartment with a view I loved. Most importantly, I had found a peace within myself that had always eluded me in my family home. The journey to this place had not been easy. The first months were the hardest, filled with doubt, guilt, and a profound sense of loss. I questioned my decision, daily wondering if I had overreacted, if I should have tried harder to communicate my feelings before taking such a dramatic step. Dr. Karen helped me recognize that I had been communicating my feelings for years, in ways both subtle and direct, but my parents had consistently chosen not to hear me. The car incident wasn't an isolated event, but the culmination of a lifetime of being overlooked and undervalued. Healing isn't a straight line, she reminded me often. There will be days when you feel strong in your decision, and days when grief overwhelms you. Both are valid parts of the process. She was right. There were mornings I woke up missing my family, desperately wanting to call them, and apologize to return to the familiar dynamic, even with its painful inequalities. There were also days filled with anger when I reviewed every slight and dismissal in my mind, fueling my resolve never to subject myself to that treatment again. Gradually, a middle ground emerged. I began to see my parents not as villains in my story, but as flawed individuals who for their own complex reasons had been unable to love their daughters equally. This understanding didn't excuse their behavior, but it helped me release some of the anger that had been weighing me down. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, Dr. Karen explained. It means freeing yourself from the burden of resentment so you can move forward. I was working toward that freedom when an unexpected email arrived in my inbox. The sender was Veronica, with the subject line simply reading, "I'm sorry." My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. I opened the message to find a lengthy letter from my sister. "Kathleen, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to say it anyway. I am sorry for how I treated you all these years. I was spoiled and entitled, and never considered how unfair things were for you. When you left, I was just angry about the car, but as time passed, I started to see things differently. Mom and Dad bought me another car a month after you left a Mercedes this time, but things haven't been the same at home. They argue a lot now. Dad drinks more than he used to. Mom is always tense. Your name is never mentioned, like you never existed, but your absence is felt everywhere. I miss you. I miss my big sister who used to help me with homework and French, braided my hair before school dances. I know I didn't appreciate you then, and I'm sorry for that too. I don't expect you to forgive me or come back, but I wanted you to know that I understand now, at least a little bit, why you left the way you did. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Your sister is more delicate, my mother would say. She needs more attention. I read the email 3 times, emotions swirling. It was the first acknowledgement from anyone in my immediate family that the treatment I had received had been unfair. It didn't erase the past, but it opened a door I had assumed was permanently closed. After careful consideration, I replied with a short message suggesting we meet if she ever visited Portland. I wasn't ready to return to Boston to face my parents or the house filled with painful memories, but I was open to rebuilding some form of relationship with my sister on new, more equal terms. A month later, Veronica flew to Portland for a weekend. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, both of us nervous and uncertain. Love, Veronica. I always envied you, you know, Veronica admitted, surprising me. You were so smart, so capable. You never seemed to need anyone's help or approval. I felt like I could never measure up to you academically or professionally, so I focused on being the favorite, on getting Mom and Dad's attention in other ways. I envied you too, I confessed. Everything came so easily to you. You never had to work for their love or attention. It was just given freely. We both had tears in our eyes by the end of the conversation. We didn't resolve everything in that one meeting, but it was a beginning, a first step toward a healthier relationship built on honesty rather than competition. My relationship with my parents remained distant. Veronica occasionally shared updates about them, but I wasn't ready for direct contact. The wounds were still too deep, the patterns too ingrained, to risk reopening that door without significant evidence of change on their part. Instead, I focused on nurturing the chosen family I had built in Portland. Olivia, who had become like a sister to me. Marcus, Zoe, and Daniel, who included me in their traditions and celebrations. My colleagues at the agency, who valued my contributions. And the women at the shelter, whose courage inspired me daily. The most profound lesson I learned through this journey was about self-worth. For years I had measured my value through my parents' eyes, constantly striving to earn the love and recognition they gave so freely to Veronica. When that validation never came, I internalized the message that I was somehow less deserving, less lovable. Breaking free from that mindset was the true liberation. I learned that my worth wasn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. It existed independently of external validation. I deserved respect and equal treatment not because I earned it through achievement or good behavior, but simply because I was a human being worthy of dignity and care. I also learned about healthy boundaries, about the difference between selfishness and self-preservation. Walking away from my family wasn't an act of revenge or spite, as they had initially framed it. It was an act of self-respect, a statement that I would no longer participate in a dynamic that diminished me. The $1 piggy bank still sits on my bookshelf, not as a painful reminder, but as a symbol of transformation. What was intended as an insult became the catalyst for the most important decision of my life. Sometimes the greatest gift comes disguised as rejection, pushing us toward the self-acceptance we might never have found otherwise. Today, as I look out over the city I now call home, I feel a sense of peace that once seemed impossible. The journey isn't over. There will be more challenges, more growth, more difficult decisions ahead. But I face them now as a woman who knows her own worth, who will never again accept being treated as less than she deserves. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between family expectations and your own well-being? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary sometimes. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear this message today. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, family isn't always defined by blood, but by who treats you with love and respect.